Brahma, Vishnu, Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Yapyat Sarvam Trilokyam Sacharacharam Tat Padam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Twameva Mata Cha Pita Twameva Twameva Bandhuscha Sakha Twameva Twameva Vidyadravinam Twameva Twameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Twameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So, who do we have online now? Did Mark Deming log on?
No, but Aditi is here.
Aditi, welcome, dear.
Hariom, thank you.
And Mark, where are we in our text?
We're on page 93, the third verse.
Okay.
Will you help us out, please?
Yeah. Jivan Muktir Vasanakshaya Manonasha Viva Videha Mukteha Sakshat Sadhanatva Jnanam Pradhanam Jnanadeva Tu Kevalyam Prapyate Yena Muchyate Iti Smriteha. As the effacement of the latent impressions and the dissolution of the mind are the principal causes of Jivan Mukti, so knowledge, being the direct means of attaining Videha Mukti, is considered to be the principal cause. The Smriti has it thus.
So, ultimately, we're making this apparent distinction between Jivan Mukta, the liberation while you're still in this body, and Videha Moksha, liberation beyond the body. What is the cause of the latter? Here, if you're liberated in the body, after you die, you are liberated. My view on the whole thing is, even though the scriptures talk about these two states, what is the mark of the Jivan Mukti? They know they're not the body. They are beyond the body. I am the self. I'm not the body. I'm not the feelings. I'm not the thoughts. So there's no ultimate difference in the end. And from the standpoint of practice, The yogi wants to take on the attitude, I'm willing to be in the body for the rest of eternity. Now, if that's what's going to be, how am I going to live? Viveka Vairagya Cha. That's the most intelligent way to live. And we can't in any way be frightened of death. Why? The body is conjured up as a thing of imagination. Whether it stays or goes, what concern have I? So here he's saying the manunasha, the destruction of the mind, and the effacement of the vasanas is the cause of being liberated here. And then that is the cause of liberation beyond the body. Other scriptures will say, if you accrue punya in this life, when you die, you go to Brahma Loka, and at the end of the age, you're liberated. You know, going back to my initial point, strive hard for moksha right here, right now. Don't worry about the future. All right, next verse.
Eva, oh, I realized I didn't, there was a little bit more of English that I didn't read. Um, from knowledge alone, Kaivalyam, the absolute unity of the spirit, is realized, and by which is liberated.
Yes. So when the yogi realizes, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, then all these concerns vanish. That is moksha. That is moksha. Listen carefully. At the point of realization, it's not, oh, I'm a liberated person. I'm a Mahatma. I have an awakened mind. Nonsense. All personal thoughts of self are illusory. Which is more real, the pleasant dream or the nightmare? Both are unreal. All right, next verse.
Kevalasyaatmano bhavaha kaivalyam dehadirahithatvam tacca jnanadeva prapyate sadehattvasya jnana kalpitattvena jnanaika nivartyatvat jnanadevetyeva karanena karma vyavrittihi na karmana na prajaya dhanena. Kaivalyam Upanishad Taittiriya Karanyake. Iti Shruteha. Absolute unity of the spirit, Kaivalyam, means the self alone, devoid of the body and the like. And that is attained only through knowledge, inasmuch as the notion of the self having a body is due to ignorance, which knowledge alone can remove. The qualifying word alone used in the phrase from knowledge alone, jnanadeva, the Sanskrit particle eva, meaning alone, only, etc., means that action is excluded. The Kaivalya Upanishad has it thus: not by action, not by children, nor by wealth.
So again, quoting scripture, Kevala, aloneness, Kaivalya. There's only one of us here. Not by actions of any kind is freedom produced. Actions can be of value to purify the equipment. Then what happens? Atma vichara, investigation into my essential nature. Why? Because the problem is avidya, it's ignorance. Ignorance is removed by knowledge. When I realize I'm not the body, not the feelings, not the thoughts, not the doer mechanism in the subtle intellect, in the vijnana maya kosha, then I am beyond the body, right here, right now. I am other than the body, right here, right now. Asangoham, unattached am I. This is the thunderous declaration of the Upanishads. Because of this is what moksha is. This is what liberation is. Next verse.
Yastu jnana shastra mana bhyasya yatha sambhavam vasanakshaya manonashavabhyasya sagunam brahmopaste na tasya kaivalyam sti linga dehasyana payat ata eva karena tavapi vyavartyate yena muchyat ityasyamarthah yena jnanaprapita kevalattvena kritsna bandhavtvimuchyata iti bandhashchanekavidha avidyagranthih abrahmatvam hridayagranthih sanshayah karmani asarvakamatvam mrityuh punarjanmetyadi shabdaistra tatra vyavaharat ta etabandhaः sarvapi jnana nivartyaः tatha cha shrutyah. So he who, without going through the discipline of knowledge, but having practiced as far as possible the effacement of the latent impressions and the dissolution of the mind, worships the conditioned Brahman, i.e., Brahman with attributes, does not attain the absolute unity of the self, because the subtle body remains undestroyed. So, by the use of alone, eva, even those two are excluded. By which is liberated, yena muchyate, means by the absolute unity of the self, kaivalyam, attained through knowledge, is liberated from all bonds. And bondage is of several kinds. The knot of ignorance, the conviction of being non-self, the knot of the heart, doubt, actions, the condition of not possessing everything wished for, death, rebirth, and the like expressions have been used there in the scriptures to indicate them. All of these bonds are surely removed by knowledge. There are shrutis in this connection thus.
So the idea here again is, as long as I do not have the deep conviction in the subtle intellect that I am Brahman, then these subtle attachments and identifications will remain. The subtle body itself is not dissolved. And here what he means is there's still these three knots of the heart that he talked about. The ignorance, the wanting stuff, doubt about things, all that remains. My thought, keep it simple. Keep meditating. Allow the unconscious tendencies, the kleshas, to arise out of the unconscious. Let them go. And let go of attachment to this world. Any identification with any form of self. Become a tyagi, an abandoner. Next verse.
एतद्यो वेद निहितं गुहायां सोऽविद्याग्रन्थिः विकिरतिह सौम्य. He who knows this, Brahman, the supreme and immortal, which is hidden in the secret place of the heart, he, even here on earth, O my good sir, cuts asunder the knot of ignorance.
Yeah. So here he's asserting that you don't have to wait till you die. You can achieve it right here, right now. Next verse.
Brahma Veda Brahmeva Bhavati, Mundaka Upanishad. He who knows Brahman verily becomes Brahman himself.
So he's, again, it's a footnote. I like to use again the metaphor of like Tarzan or Moses. Tarzan is a human being, but he's raised in the jungle thinking he's an ape. He isn't one, he's a human. The European explorers come and enlighten him. You are not an ape, you're a man. He doesn't change at all ontologically. His form is as it's always been. But his understanding of who he is changes profoundly. Likewise, a person in ignorance, their essential nature is still Brahman, but in their minds, they do not know this. In their minds, they superimpose all sorts of false ideas. The result of that phony identification, that fake news, is suffering. When the mind realizes, oh, I've always been Brahman. You don't become it, you don't achieve it, you don't attain it. Realize what you've always been. What is this world? Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. The names and forms are illusory. How do they come about? Including the body, mind, intellect, sankalpena, by means of imagination only. Same way the dream body comes about. No fundamental difference. Seen, but not real. And all the regrets of the past, all of the unfulfilled dreams and hopes of the future, the sanchita and agami karmas, gone. All that's left is the dream of the now. Which only exists for a time. And that too is gone. And the Shanti mantra we do at the end of class, the Purnamada, that one section where it says, when the fullness of this, meaning the phenomenal world, meaning my body, mind, intellect, is removed from the fullness of that, meaning the imagination of individual life is ended. Purnam eva avashishyate. Fullness alone. You do not disappear. Only the forms go away. Next verse.
मिद्यते हृदयग्रन्थिश्चेत्यन्ते सर्वसंशयाः क्षीयन्ते चास्य कर्मणि तस्मिन् दृष्टे परावरे. Mundaka Upanishad. The knot of the heart is rent asunder, all doubts are resolved, and his deeds terminate when he is seen, who is both high and low. Mundaka Upanishad.
Yes, and we've been studying Mundaka on Saturday morning. So the idea here is when their deeds cease, the deeds vanish, we mean the self is seen to never do anything. I go nowhere. I do nothing. And in the mind, all ego prompted desire and action is gone. What do I mean by that? This idea that I need to begin this venture in order to be happy. I need to stop doing that activity in order to be happy. I do nothing. In front of me, Jagat appears. But I am the unattached witness of it all. Well, what about plans for the future? Plan for the future if you want. may or may not have anything to do with what actually transpires. It's all illusion. Next verse.
Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam Parame Vyoman So Ashnute Sarvan Kaman Saha. Taittiriya Upanishad. He who knows Brahman, which is reality, knowledge, and infinity, placed in the secret place of the heart and in the highest Akasha, realizes all desires along with Brahman, the omniscient. Taittiriya Upanishad.
Yes, so this idea of in the heart, remember, at the level of doing asana, pranayama, we think of the heart, the anahata chakra, as something geographically located. But the deeper understanding of the spiritual heart is the place, the context of all thought, feeling, perception, sensation. It's another name for awareness itself. Here it uses the term akasha. Yoga Vasishtha uses the term chidakasha, my favorite name for the self, the space of pure awareness. And all the strivings cease. To know Brahman is to become Brahman. Well, not really. To know Brahman is to realize I've always been it. I just didn't know it. You don't become it. Always been it. Like the person who's searching all around the house because they've lost their keys. Then finally they look in their pants pocket. Oh, I had them all along. How weird. I was sure I'd lost my keys. So also, I think I'm a person. I think I'm not happy. I search and search and search, only to discover what I'm looking for. I'm looking with. And the end of this idea is when he gains happiness in everything, he understands where it comes from. If you get the new car, how will you feel? Happy. If you get the house, how will you feel? Happy. If you get bunches of money, how will you feel? Happy. Why don't you get rid of the middleman? The car, the house, the money, and just go for the happiness, which is another name for yourself. Desire and object of desire become one for a moment. The mind ceases its karma, its craving. It comes home and is blissful because yourself is bliss absolute. Ananda Rasa Swad. Term we got on Monday night. Swad means taste. Rasa means juice. Tasting the juice of the bliss of Brahman. Atmaramana. Reveling in yourself. And I go back to what I call the cosmic teeter-totter. The more I'm attached to the world, the more I'm into control issues, the more I want and aver, the less peace. Let go and let God. See the fundamental emptiness of the phenomenon. And abidance in the self becomes easy. If I'm restless, irritable, and discontent, my ego will tell me people, places, things, and conditions, more, better, different. Yoga says if I'm restless, irritable, and discontent, what am I holding on to? Next verse.
One second. Tameva viditvat mit Tameva viditva timrityu meti. Only by knowing him does one pass over death. Shweta Upanishad.
Which Upanishad?
It's abbreviated as Shwet, but I don't know what the full name is.
I don't know either. So again, he's just footnoting. Only by knowing the self are we freed from the vicissitudes of this world. Only way to resolve the torment of the dream, wake up. With reference to the waker, all the problems of the dream are meaningless. If I have an anxiety dream that I'm in a cage, the solution is not to get out of the cage in the dream. Wake up. Then the whole problem is seen to be illusion. Oh, what a weird dream. Next verse.
Yastu Vijnanavan Bhavati Samanaskaha Sada Shuchih. Satu Tatpadamapnoti Yasmadbhuyo Na Jayate. Tat Upanishad. But he who has understanding, who has control over his mind, and is ever pure, attains that goal from which he is not born again.
Yeah.
Tat Upanishad.
Which Upanishad?
Tat Upanishad.
Okay. So here the idea is knowledge of the self, identification with the self is what controls the mind. Swamiji used to say the way to heal the mind is to get out of the mind. All attempts to pacify the mind from within the mind are temporary. So some schools of psychotherapy will talk about reframing the story. You come into the therapist's office and you say, "Oh, I'm so upset. My boss yelled at me. I'm so afraid I'm going to get fired. He is so mean. I'm so upset." And the therapist in this particular school will say, reframe the story. You're fine. Are you doing your job? Yes. Probably your boss had a bad day. He's projecting his issues onto you. It's not about you, it's about the boss. Oh, okay. I'm not a terrible worm. I'm okay. He's a worm. Reframing the story. Temporary. Too small. Yoga says, who's upset? You or the mind? Get out. No involvement with the mind's silly reactions. It's just the force of the past maturing. Let it. Yabbit, 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 yabbit. Kill that demon, yabbit. Get out. And if you watch any of Swamiji's videos, frequently, one of the classes, he'll say, "Shut up and get out." That's what we're going to do. Stop it. Get out. Next verse.
य एवं वेदाहं ब्रह्मास्मीति स इदं सर्वं भवति. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Whoever knows thus, I am Brahman, becomes this all.
Yes. Again, just footnoting the same idea. So again, you don't become it. You realize you've always been it. And this is not knowledge that is indirect. How do we define or describe indirect knowledge? Brahman is. How do we describe direct knowledge? I am Brahman as my direct experience. Next verse.
Ityadinya sarvagyatva nivritti parani vakyanyatro daharaniya niyani seyam videha muktir jnanotpattis sa makalina yeya brahmanya vidyaropitanam bandhanam vidyaya vinashe sati पुनरुत्पत्त्यसम्भवादन नुभावाच तदेतद्विद्या समकालीनत्वं भाष्यकारः समन्वयसूत्रे ब्रह्मसूत्रे prapanchayamasah tadadhigama uttarapurvadghayora shlesha vinashau tadva tadvaya padeshat Brahma Sutre ityatra cha. These and other such Shruti texts denoting the removal of bondages such as non-omniscience and the like may be quoted here in this connection. The aforesaid incorporeal liberation, i.e. deliverance through release from the body, Videha Mukti, it is to be understood takes place simultaneously with the dawn of knowledge. For the bonds superimposed on Brahman through ignorance, when destroyed by knowledge, are not perceived, nor is their reappearance possible. The commentator Shankara has dwelt upon the simultaneity of knowledge and Videha Mukti in the Samanvaya Sutra from the Brahma Sutra, and also in the Brahma Sutra, verse or chapter 4, 4.1.13. When that Brahman is realized, there occur non-clinging and destruction of the subsequent and previous sins respectively, because it is so declared by the scriptures.
So Vidyaranya finally gets to, is there more?
Nope, that's it.
Vidyaranya finally gets to the point I made at the beginning. There's no real difference between Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti. They are the same thing. From the standpoint of the ignorant, I see Swamiji's body and I think that's who Swamiji is. And then Swamiji dies. Swamiji's gone. But for the person who has the eye of wisdom, who is Swamiji? Swamiji's not that little Indian man in the orange robes. He's not that dynamic personality. Swamiji is the thunder of silence. Profound emptiness that's also full. And when the body fell down, he went nowhere. So in classes here, when we're in person, and the gestalt of satsang is working well, people's minds are all tuned up. They're aware of their self-nature. Meet Swamiji. He's gone. It's another name for the self. It's an unreal distinction, only articulated in the scripture as an aid to the ignorant in their sadhana. Any thoughts or questions about this? Next verse.
Nanu vartamana dehapatana nantara bhavini videha muktiriti bahavo varnayanti. Objection. But many describe videha mukti as taking place only after the existing body falls apart.
So the doubt here is, okay, Jivan Moksha is when I see the saint walking around. Videha Moksha is when the body dies. Isn't that what's supposed to happen? That's what the scriptures say. That's what the doubter says. Let's see how Vidyaranya responds.
Tatha cha shrutihi tasya tavadeva chiram yavanna vimokshyeta vimokshe atha sampatsye from Chandogya Upanishad. And there is the Shruti thus: he remains here only so long as he is not released from the body. Then he reaches perfection.
So the objector is quoting Chandogya. Going on.
Vakya vrittava pyuktam prarabdha karma vegena jivan mukto yada bhavet kanchit kala manarabdha karma bandhasya sankshaye nirastatikshyanandam vaishnavam param padam punaravrittirhitam kaivalyam pratipadyate iti. In the Vakya Vritti, also it says thus: for some time he becomes Jivan Mukta, impelled by the Prarabdha karma. Then, when the bonds of that operative karma, Prarabdha, are spent up, he attains to that all-pervading, supreme state of exceeding bliss, which is the absolute existence of the self, and from where there is no return. Vakyavritti, verse 52.
So here the objector is even quoting Shankara. Going on.
Sutyakaro apyaha bhogena tvittare kshapyetva sampadyate brahmasutre iti itare prarabdha punya pape. The author of the Vedanta Sutras also says thus: but after exhausting through experience the other two, he attains the absolute existence of the self. Brahma Sutra 4.1.19. By the other two is meant prarabdha, i.e., the fructifying merit and demerit.
So to cut to the chase on this, it depends on from which level we're looking. From the level of Vyavahara, the worldly transactions, the body, mind, intellect of the Jivan Mukti sticks around as long as there's prarabdha. But he is not identified with that. He's identified as the self, which is never born and does not die. So the teaching of prarabdha is for the ignorant, to explain what appears to be the appearance of the body and the speech and the thoughts and feelings of the Mahatma. That's all it is. Now, as yogis, what do we do with this teaching? The doubt that we have to be sure we're not caught up in is, oh, this world is so terrible. I can't wait till I die, and hopefully I'll be liberated forever and I won't have to come back. That's subtle aversions. Maybe not so subtle. So what I recommend is take up the vampire Lestat meditation. If you read those old Interview with a Vampire books, the vampires could not die. What if you're going to be in the body for the rest of eternity? How will you live? No escape. The answer is very simple. Quit worrying about it. Be supremely detached. And what if you're going to die tomorrow? Quit worrying about it. You go nowhere. So the person who's really free is no longer concerned about the presence or the absence of the body. Not even particularly concerned with stupid mind states. Has no investment in ideas, be they spiritual or temporal. All of this is, as it were, like a dream. This is the intelligent way to live. Next verse.
वसिष्ठोऽप्याह जीवन्मुक्तपदं त्यक्त्वा स्वदेहे कालसत्कृते विशत्यदेहमुक्तत्वं पवनोऽस्पन्दतामिव. Vasishtha also says thus: when the body is dissolved, he, giving up the state of the Jivan Mukta, enters the state of the Videha Mukta, even as the wind becomes motionless. Laghu Yoga Vasishtha.
Okay. Again, just quoting what happens. Next verse.
Nyayam doshaha viviksha mata dvaya syavirodhat videha mukti rityatratena deha shabdena kritsnam deha jatam vivikshitva bahubhirve bahubhirvarnitam अस्माभिस्तु भाविदेहमात्रविवक्षयोच्यते तदनारम्भवायेव ज्ञानसम्पादनात्. अयं तु देह पूर्वमेवारब्धः अतो ज्ञानेनापि नास्यारम्भो वारयितुं शक्यते. एतद् देहनिवृत्तिरपि न ज्ञानफलम् अज्ञाने नाम प्रारब्धकर्म क्षयते तन्निवृत्तेः. Reply. There is no harm. The two positions, due to different points of view, are not contradictory. By the word body, deha, occurring in the compound word videha mukti, many are of the opinion that all kinds of bodies are implied collectively, i.e., the existing ones and the future ones. But we have used it from the standpoint of the future body alone. For knowledge is accomplished in order to secure the non-occurrence of that. This, the existing body, has already begun. Hence, its beginning cannot be checked, even by knowledge. And the dissolution of this body also is not the effect of knowledge, inasmuch as the bodies, even of the ignorant, when the prarabdha karma is exhausted, cease to exist.
So here Vidyaranya is dealing with all these doubts that the Shishya has been raising. And he basically says what I was implying. The point of knowledge is I know I'm Brahman and I'm not the body. I really never was the body. And what is the cause of this belief that I am a body? It's spiritual ignorance. And then the subsequent attachment and identification that comes from it. So, what happens at the point of realization? I realize I'm not the body. Never was, can't be. But the idea here is the cause of future embodiment and the consequent suffering that comes with it is removed by knowledge. What does that mean? All of the karmas of the past which have yet to fructify, what we call sanchitta karma, gone. Meaning, no change of circumstances is going to make it any better. All the karmas of the future that I may set in motion, gone, agami karma. It isn't going to be any better with a change of circumstances. What's left? The funny farm I see here now, till it wears out. This sounds nihilistic. No. Not in the least. Purnam Adaha. Self is full of bliss. Purnam Idam. This world is also full of bliss because it's Brahman. Person of wisdom is not afraid of the world. If the equipment's engaging with the objects, let it do so. She no longer mistakes what Yoga Vasishtha will say, pieces of colored glass for precious jewels. The joys of this world are like a thimbleful of water added to the ocean. A little bit of juice. Very good. All right, let's do one more.
तर्हि वर्तमानलिङ्गदेहनिवृत्तिर्ज्ञानफलमस्तु ज्ञानमन्तरेण तदनिवृत्तिरिति चेत्. Objection. Then let the effect of knowledge be the destruction of the existing subtle body, since without knowledge this subtle body does not cease to exist.
Say that again. I'm not sure I understood the question.
Then let the effect of knowledge be the destruction of the existing subtle body, since without knowledge this subtle body does not cease to exist.
Okay, I'm not sure what the objector is getting at. Let's go ahead and answer the doubt and see what happens.
न सत्यपि ज्ञाने जीवन्मुक्तेस्तन्निवृत्त्यभावात्. Reply. We say no, because in spite of knowledge, the subtle body of a Jivan Mukta does not cease.
Yes, meaning Prarabdha not only keeps the physical body going, but the subtle body as well. That's part of the Prarabdha. What is the subtle body? 5 organs of action, 5 organs of knowledge. We locate these in the subtle body because they occur in the dream. Manas, Buddhi, Ahankriti, Chitta. All of those elements continue to operate. Meaning we see not only the body of Jivan Mukta walking around, but she can laugh, she can talk, she can perceive. She can dance. Or not. But because the avidya is gone, she's no longer afflicted by desire. She's as calm as a fire that's burnt up its fuel. She's a full knower of the Supreme and has retired into the Supreme. Will she reincarnate again? What is there to reincarnate? And let's take on the hypothetical. Maybe subtle bodies are eternal. Some schools of thought say they are. To the Jivan Mukti. So what? You as the waker, have you been able to stop the process of dreaming at night? Oh. But as the waker, what do you know? Whether I dream or don't dream. Make a whole lot of difference. all mithya, illusions. Okay, we'll quit here today. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Om.